The common Mexican, I didn't even know what Thanksgiving was. I just knew it as a day of giving thanks. Thanks for what? I don't know. We never were told why. We never learned or were told about the history of what are we giving thanks to. So, as a kid, with my family, we celebrated Thanksgiving. However, when I was 23 years of age, I met this Native American. His name was Arlie Steele, a White Mountain Apache from the San Carlos Reservation. The reason why I met him was because I was a tattoo artist at the time, so he wanted Native pride tatted on his forearms. As I was tattooing him, I realized that he had an accent when he spoke English. The irony is when you look at him and you look at me, you think we're related. So I assumed that he was Honduran or Salvadorian or something. He probably speaks Spanish. That's why he has an accent. So when I said to him, hey, where are you from? I'm from Arizona. But I mean, like, your race. He says, oh, I'm Native American. I was so ignorant to what Native American even was. When I thought about Native American, I thought about what the movies, Dances with Wolves, these guys dressed in skin and with feathers, meaning a people that no longer exist. So when this guy is getting Native pride, I have no idea what that means. I'm just doing a tattoo. So when I ask him and he says, I'm Native, I really don't even know what that means. Because I can't equate that someone who looks like me is one of those people riding around on horses wearing the animal skin and the feathers on his head. You speak Spanish? Nah, man. What language you speak? Of course, I ask him because of the accent. He says, I speak Apache. Apache meaning like, ooh, that Apache? And he starts laughing. He said, yeah. I said, so you're Native American? Yeah, that's why I'm getting the tattoos. I was like, oh, shit. And I'm thinking in my head, I thought y'all were extinct. Really? That's what I thought. Because if you pay attention to movies, every time they make a movie of Native Americans, it's a history movie. It's a past tense. It's never a modern Native American. When have you seen a modern Native American movie? As I'm tattooing him, he's teaching me about his culture, his ancestry, what goes on in the reservation that he was born in, that he was raised in. And as he's telling me about his culture, something is resonating with me. 2 years later, my grandpa said something to me. He said, you know, the people where you're from are known as the Yaqui people. Just a simple comment that he made. I already had the conversation with the Apache. So when my grandpa says, where you're from, the people are known as Yaqui, I stopped. What did you say, sir? Oh, I was just saying the people where you're from, they're known as Yaqui. The Native American word doesn't exist. So I'm not expecting him to say, oh, the Native American. No, the people of that pueblo are known as Yaqui. I learned that my grandma's first language is Nahuatl. When I learned this, I began to make sense of what the Apache was telling me and why it resonated with me. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that this whole time, me as a Mexican, I've been proud to speak Spanish, thinking that's our language. And then you go to Mexico and you see all kinds of different races. And they're just Mexican because Mexican is a nationality. But I've been claiming to be Mexican as if it were a race for my whole life.
I'm not gonna lie, my mom would say I'm Dominican by blood, and I thought it was a race the entire time, not gonna lie.
Mexican people say Mexican is in my blood. It used to make sense to say that. But now, it does not. When I was 23 years of age, I ran into an article. The article was about Thanksgiving. This article was not describing what we today blindly and ignorantly celebrate. What is it that we're celebrating? Now, in my case, when I read this article, it showed images of Native American women being tied up from their feet to trees, pregnant bellies cut open. It was describing all the ways that the Spaniards were unaliving the Native American women. When I read this, I wasn't too shocked that these things happened. Of course, I've seen movies where white folks are fighting with the Native Americans in these older movies. I've seen that stuff. I'm aware of the wars in the past. However, I never knew that Thanksgiving, what it really represents is when the Pilgrims sat down with the Native Americans and pretended to offer peace. And once they gathered them around and got them drunk, they wiped them out. That is the real gathering of Thanksgiving. When I learned this and realized how evil it was, it affected me. However, when I learned that these people that this happened to, it wasn't a people of the past. It was us, our people, our ancestors. Wait a minute. I've been celebrating the wiping away of our own ancestors. So I'm giving thanks to the colonizers coming and wiping us out. These Native Americans are not a people of the past. It's us. We have just been rebranded as Mexican, Salvadorian, Guatemalan, Latino, Hispanic. It's called ethnic erasure or ethnic cleansing. You kidnap a people, you shove them in Indian boarding schools, force them to no longer speak their languages, remove their original names, and force them to have Spanish names, English names, French names, Portuguese names, just like slavery for black people. Also kidnapped, stripped away from their ethnicities, their culture, everything that they are. Black people now today identify as Johnson, speak English, speak Spanish. The only difference here is that black people have a good idea that they're not white versus us, who on paper we've been identifying as white. And that's how much ethnic cleansing has affected us. We've been blinded by the fact that they took away our names, our languages, our culture, everything that we are, and replaced it with the colonizer's identity. Hence, colonialism. When I think about the aftermath of colonialism, ethnic cleansing, and acculturation, and then I see us celebrating Thanksgiving, we're giving thanks because they took away everything. They slaughter our ancestors. They built their own countries on top of our corpses. That is Thanksgiving. I can't give thanks to that.
I didn't know really what happened in Thanksgiving until like a year ago, and I told my mom, I'm going to celebrate Thanksgiving. She's like, ¿por qué no?
So one day my mom hits me up on Thanksgiving, says, hey, I got the turkey ready. And this would be the first time I say, I'm not celebrating that. And she says, wait, what? What are you talking about? I'm not celebrating that day of mass unaliving. What are you talking about, son? I said, Mom, did you know that Thanksgiving is giving thanks to the fact that the Europeans wiped out Native Americans? And she says, that has nothing to do with that. That has everything to do with us. And that represents us as a whole. We think that has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with us. We just are so ignorant and unaware of who we actually are.